Hello, and we're back with Cultivating Confidence, and today we're talking about numbers. Now, I'm not meaning the back-end analytics of how your LinkedIn or your YouTube channel are actually going, or your Google Analytics. What we are talking about is that subject that all of us fear, that subject that brings a pit into the back of your belly, that subject that you normally shove over to your accountant and hope you're in profit. We're talking the big, smelly, horrible thing, numbers. But as usual, this isn't my area of expertise. If you want to talk to me about how the back end, how you're performing, you want me to crunch the numbers, talk about numbers on your social media or your website, that's absolutely brilliant. But when it comes to that nitty gritty, that's where Jill gets to come in with her excellence. So as usual, I'm going to pass over to Jill and let her take the floor.
I know this is your favourite subject, isn't it, Kirsty? Oh, numbers. And it's a bit it's a filthy word, isn't it? It's money. Yeah.
It is.
Particularly if you're running your own business, you're doing it for lots of other reasons as a passion, and you sometimes get so busy in the throes of running your business that you don't actually want to know how's it going. Yeah, because it's kind of, if I don't look, I don't need to worry about it. And it's a little bit of the head in the sand situation. And if you're working in a business, it's something you really need to be aware of. And there's a lot of psychology around the money conversation, but actually knowing your numbers is really important. Well, hey, why else are you in business? If you're not making money, it's a hobby that you're paying someone else to allow you to do.
And it's like, you gave me some really, really good advice years ago. We were at Bloxham Mill, and you just said to me, are you charging enough? It's a really, really heavy question. At the time, I wasn't. Now I always feel guilty. And I know that sounds really, we're going to talk about this relationship with numbers. I feel guilty for the amount that I charge. But then I have to remember that a certain bit goes to the intellectual property and a certain bit goes to the running of the business and blah, blah, blah. When you actually cut down the cost to where it actually sits, I don't actually earn that much. So I wondered if you could talk about how charging too little, as well as we need to know a number, but if you can't get to your number if you're not charging enough, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we all have business costs. Yeah. So we have to, what you need to know is you need to know the cost of running your business. If you do absolutely nothing, how much is it going to cost you to run your business? Because there are basic costs that we all have. We've all got websites, social media, insurance, accountancy costs come into it. Whether you're making money or not, you're still paying it. And it's all of those things, your office costs, all of those things that are, no matter how much you work, that is a base cost. So that's what we call our fixed cost. And I think a lot of the challenge is that we talk to an accountant who that's their bread and butter, and they get all excited about it, and it's a language you don't understand. So you just go, oh, no, don't talk to me about that. So really what's most important is understanding your base costs. Yeah. And if you understand your base costs, then that's a good place to start. And then you can, then it's about what you need to run your business versus what you want to run your business. So there's all sorts of things that you need to do, and you need to have a bit of contingency for when the laptop breaks. Yeah. When something happens, so that you've got something, you have to think about those kind of things as well. You need, once you know your base costs of running your business, and then the next layer is how much money do I need to earn to feed myself? Then you start to look at your costs and how you fit your costs into that, and then you can price how much, and then the charging bit comes into it. And it's a really hard thing. Yeah, and there's a lot of psychology. There's some calculations that go on about this, but there's also psychology about it. Is the whole, am I worth it? We've talked about that on several of our LinkedIn lives, haven't we? And our podcast is about, am I worth it? But it's what you have to have a little bit of a think about is, why are you doing this? You're doing this to serve people, and you can't serve people if you're not making money for yourself. So it's, we're not charities.
Yeah. And it's difficult. it's really, really difficult. One of the things that I've really had to grow up on, and I do mean grow up on, because, you know, where I started with what I was charging when I first met you to what I charge now. What I charge now seems actually to me very expensive, but actually it's not. It is, but it's not. And it's that cost of, if you spend an hour and a half with me, if you spend and you invest in one of those 3-hour sessions that you can split up, if you invest that time, the return on your investment is bloody huge. And I think that's
Yeah,
something
and
that
exactly the same thing. Yeah.
we forget.
And I think
that.
that's what we don't do. Yeah, we do forget that. But it's more than that. What you also have to do is have to think about is you are never going to be 100% productive, whether you're running your own business or working in a business. There is always some time that you have to allocate to admin tasks and marketing, all of those other good things, networking, all of the things that you have to do that are part of running your business. They are not earning you money. Yeah. So it's that bit that you need to have a think about. And only when you've kind of start to get the balance in and you start to look at your numbers, and I would say to do it regularly, is look at how much you're spending. Keep a record of your expenses and look at that on a regular basis. Monthly is a really good way of doing it. It's really important so that you can see. Sometimes it's even like, I haven't done any marketing. I haven't spent any money on marketing this month, or I haven't done any networking, because you can see that from a costs. And I'm sure there's quite a few accountants that maybe not watching today that will go, oh yes, yeah, absolutely. Make sure you do. And if you're using some of the accountancy software, it's very easy just to pull up some of that information. Yeah. And it's about how you keep the records, because to make it easy for yourself. I mean, there's some businesses will say, I need to spend this percentage of my revenue on marketing, or this percentage on this, but that's a way of looking how you're going to work. If you want to grow, you're going to need to invest. So it's looking at how much you're investing. So it's not just keeping a track of your costs in the sense of keeping them down. It's also making sure that you're spending enough to grow your business.
And I think that's really good. One of the things that I tell my clients to do, and it is really important, is to put in. So when I'm writing my own marketing, I charge myself my time. That sounds really silly, but I say to my clients, if you're doing your marketing yourself, which obviously some of my clients are, but if you were to work in a big corporation, that person doing the marketing, whether it's yourself, that person has a salary. So you need to align money to what you're actually doing. So if you are in the back end looking at data analytics, if you are designing something on Canva, if you are out networking, it's not just about the cost of going networking. So what's the cost of your time? And some people forget that. And that is where I started to realize, actually, and Dennis is brilliant at this, because I've got something where I can't be as flexible as I want to be in my diary because I'm waiting for some appointments to come in. And he was like, but you can't take on any other work. And I went, oh yeah. So therefore I'm not earning. And so you've really got to balance up what goes into your figure, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I lost my train of thought then. I went off on a tangent in my head.
We do that.
Yeah. What I think what is quite difficult is separating the me from the business. Yeah. So if you think of your business as a separate entity to you, you are employed by your business. Yeah. And there is a cost to your business of your time, or not just anything. There's loads of things that you cost your business. If you're a limited company and you are giving yourself a salary, then there's in tax, national insurance, all of those things that are attributed to you as an employee, and you have to remember that you are a cost to your business. So it's that whole. This could get complicated. Now we were going to try and keep it simple.
I know. Well, let's lighten it, because it gets a bit. Let's just think about how do I track my number. So I have a spreadsheet, and so one of the things that I looked at in my spreadsheet, because I do look at it, I should look at it a bit more, but I do look at it. And that looking at my spreadsheet, which tells me, and I do have things like my Word on, Microsoft Word, my Microsoft package. I have the cost of the StreamYard platform that we're using today. I have the cost of my Tide account. Okay, it was a one-off fee this year, but I have all the costs, the vidIQ that I use in the back of my YouTube channel, that has a cost, the cost of my Canva, and I factor this all into it. I also factor in a reserve. So you talked about it earlier. I factor in a reserve. So when my laptop was struggling because of what I was doing, I knew I had the reserve to go out and buy that and buy it on the business. The same with my mobile phone. My mobile phone is my mobile phone for the business. So it came up the business account. So by tracking my number, and I will say it's not the best system, but it works, it allowed me to realize that I needed, as we were talking about, I needed to separate myself and the business. And that's actually why I moved the office, so that I have a physical location. And now I think of myself, and actually, really interestingly, since I moved the business, I'm much more productive because I don't feel like I'm working in my business. I feel like the business is employing me. It's a crazy mindset.
Crazy psychology.
I know, crazy psychology, right? But it feels like the business is employing me to do a job, and I feel employed rather than, oh, I'm running a business, which makes no sense. But I know I'm more productive.
Yeah, but there's quite a few things that we don't even think about as costs, because they come up annually. But actually, what you can do is write down everything that you do. Your Zoom subscription, all of that software. We've all got a lot of software that's supporting our businesses, and get in touch with me. I do have a spreadsheet for that I could share with you. So, and it is kind of what is that cost on an annual basis, and then how much per month should I recognize that is costing me in my business? What I also do, it's kind of simple stuff like that, and then you can say, okay, this is how much my business is costing me. I need to earn that much money at least, to cover my costs. And then the other thing is what I do, and it's a trick that I would get everybody to do, is I submit expenses to myself every month.
Yeah.
So I use a software again. It's a very simple software, and I literally track my mileage and all of those ad hoc costs that come out from all of those bits and pieces. I track that so that that's something else I add into the cost of my business on a monthly basis. And then you can look at how much you're bringing in and what you need to take off. It's really important. And then you've kind of got much more of a feel of how am I doing? How am I really doing? Not about the revenue stuff thing. And then you can start to then once you've got that, you have an idea of, okay, now I've got a little bit extra. What would I like to invest in? So you can also have a little bit of a shopping list in the sense of what do I need to do next, and then it's a nice way of having that balance between and control, because this is about having a bit of control and confidence. So if on your goal map you have this goal that you want to achieve, and in order to do that you have some steps, some tasks that you want to do. Maybe you want to invest in a business coach or a marketing plan, then or some marketing support, then it's at that point you can say, can I afford it? Yeah. I would also say, can you afford not to? But that's a whole different question.
But we do have to say that don't get overwhelmed, because I'm dyslexic, and I scare people a little bit with how much information I hold in here. Someone did that actually this week. They were like, how much is in there? Because I use my brain a lot. So a lot of the stuff that I then transfer into my spreadsheet, it might have been held in here for a while. But I just want to say to people, don't get scared of this, because there are people like Jill who can support you. But there is one side of the business that, and particularly the number, that we all hate. And I'm going to bring it in because it is something that even somebody who does do this really well, and I do it well, so is invoicing. So I will charge, if I'm going out and it's a big training session and I've got to travel miles away to get there, then I will charge up front. And I know it sounds really rotten, But actually, if I've driven all the way somewhere and then I find that they've cancelled, now I do have cancellation clauses, and if something goes wrong, because it could do, then we can rebook. But I'm looking at the cost of their business, but the cost of mine as well. And I've got to be a bit selfish here. So I do ask for money up front, and I don't leave my house on big contracts like that without being paid. The other thing I'll do is I will split payments, over 2 months. If it's a rolling contract, I will do things. But I, like everybody out there, I don't like chasing invoices. So that's why I put this whole structure in place where you pay half now. And one of the big things I do if I'm doing a body of work, so say I'm creating a whole brand strategy and brand look and templates, I don't release the final bits of information until I've been paid. So I don't,
exactly.
because I've been caught.
I think we've all been a little bit burned. And there's some savvy tricks to do. Is getting payment in advance is always a good thing, or holding payment on account is not terrible. 9/10 of the law is in possession. So that's a lawyer told me that, solicitor told me that. So if you've got it, you've got control of it. So a lot of this is, again, if you are doing the work and not getting paid for it, you are loaning somebody money. And if you can see it, that mindset is that you're loaning them money if they're not paying you first. Yeah. And you're not a bank.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of tricks to play around there. And I would always advise people to, get a commitment. Certainly from my perspective, it's a psychological thing, is if you've paid for it, you've committed to it. And that is the reason why I ask for payment up front for my coaching sessions. It's because it's a psychological commitment. Yeah. Because if you want to make a change in your life, you have to commit to it in some way. And actually parting with money does kind of make people think about it, or it's part of that we've talked about this in some of our courses that we've done together, haven't you? It's that commitment thing. It's about making a commitment, and it's part of the sales process. So there's lots of things you can do around money, but first of all, know how much it costs to run your business, and then you can plan and strategize based on that.
And I think it's really also when you do it, one of the things that I noticed when I started to advertise my pricing, the new, oh my goodness, I mean, doesn't feel like that now because that was 2.5 years ago. But when I did actually step out of my, I'm too scared to charge that, and stepped into the light and went, no, I'm worth this. What I give my clients is worth it, is I started to advertise my pricing, and then I brought in payment links, and I know you use them as well. Yeah. So I've made it easier. Now, I really like the back end of some of these automated, you've got PayPal, you've got Stripe, just naming a few. But there's other calendar apps, so you can use them, you can booking systems, and that has changed everything. I mean, obviously I've got online courses, but this has changed everything. And what's really cool is, again, it's about knowing your number. If you're using one of those payments, they take tax as well. And you need to look, if you're going to use a payment system, they're going to take a cut on top. So again, you've got to factor that in. And yet loads of people I know don't. So they think, I'm selling a course for £97. I'm going to get £97. No, you're not. You're going to get about 92.
Yeah, and also I would also say we're back to making it easy to work with somebody. So if you have a payment gateway, then it makes it easier to work with you. It's the Amazon concept. It's making it easy. It's a click of a button and it's done. There's that kind of thing. But it's also there is a cost to these things, and you need to factor that in. But it's also a relatively small cost because you're not chasing invoices. You're not chasing payment, and it's that whole kind of thing. And I would say there's some incredible software around that is not expensive, and automation is the way to go. Is if you have a process of automate, it works away in the background, so you don't have to. And if it gets a bit complicated, there's plenty of people out there who can help you. Yeah, or come and talk to one of us, because we've done quite a few of these things ourselves, and we have clients and people in our network that do it as well. So I would say, ask around, find out what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, and you, I mean, recently I missed something. We talked about this. I'm compliant now with data protection, but I missed something because I got caught up, like many small business owners. I got caught up. I got caught up in the pretty bit. I like the marketing. That's easy. You know, that I can skip down the park to. I love doing these. That's easy for me. But actually, the back end is where I do struggle, and I'm really honest about it. And I know that I'm really proud of myself every year when I get it and it balances, and I look at my spreadsheets and everything balances, and I go, oh, done it again. So there's a pride that comes with it, but there are hidden costs that we forget. And I know that there's loads of businesses out there that forget that actually, well, small entrepreneurs, single solopreneurs, that forget you've got to have public liability insurance.
Yeah.
You've actually got to have some compliance before you can go and deliver work. And there was something, I can't remember what it's called, but there was something I missed, and you were like, how can you not have done that? I remember you telling me off.
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of setting up when you set up your business, understanding what the compliance, what the rules are, and there's a few bits and pieces that you need to do. And yeah, the data protection thing is one thing. It's knowing all of these things is really hard if you're in business.
It's incredibly scary. So you've been going in business for quite some time, but what do you think is the biggest difference? And I think this is a pondering question that I've always wondered, because I know how I feel about it. The difference between shifting from working for somebody where you just go to meetings, so people forget this, you go to a meeting, you're paid for that time, you did all of these things that you do when you're working in business, to then being in business yourself and having to shift that mindset, because that's where you're really good at helping people, is shift the mindset to understand where and how to be connected to the number, to know your number and why it's so important. So I'm wondering if you could give some advice on the mindset side of it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the one thing is working out that you are a business, and like that whole thing, that separation between the business and you as an employee or somebody that's working in the business, of that, making sure that you separate your business costs from your personal costs. Yeah. And be very clear. Yeah, it's also a compliance thing, because HMRC want to see that there's a clear differentiation, that the cost that you are charging your business is associated solely with your business. If there's a grey area, they get a bit funny. So there's that about it, being very clear. And also, I mean, I think sometimes it's quite easy to just go, oh yeah, I'll just pay for that, but actually it is a business cost.
Yeah, and you just told me off for that one last week.
The thing is I've been doing it for, because of the roles I've had in the past, it comes to me a little bit naturally. It's a kind of a part of what I've always done, and it's understanding. Like I said, if you send yourself an expense, I don't know if you, once upon a time when you were employed, that you had an expense sheet, that makes a big difference, because it makes you think about what you're spending. Absolutely, very, very clear. Have a separation, financial separation, a different bank account for your business to personal. Separate that out. It makes it psychologically easy. It's a psychology, but it's also a admin thing. It makes it way easier. As soon as there's blurred lines. If you're paying with your personal credit card as opposed to your business credit card, it all gets a little bit funny unless you're very clear and run the book and know how to do that from a bookkeeping point of view.
Yeah. And that was an area I really struggled with. Let's be honest. I had the business bank account, but I had fear that what if I can't pay the money? And even now, taking on an office, and I was like, oh, well, if I put it on, and this is where you were like, no, come on, big girl here, big girl now. And I was like, oh yeah. But I have now shifted everything. But I think that's something that's quite normal when you first launch a business, is that you get that blurred lines. I'm 4 years in now and I don't have those blurred lines. And I will say that advice, and it was your advice, was absolutely brilliant, because I do feel very separate, and I do feel very much more in control. But I did feel very much out of control and a bit like a scattergun. What's going here, what's going there, and it was difficult to track even with my spreadsheet. So
yeah, and I'd say that that's also, sometimes it's quite difficult if you're talking to somebody who, the accountants, they have a language of their own and a mindset of their own, and sometimes you forget how to come back to the normal. I certainly have a client who has chronic dyscalculia, and somebody was trying to explain to her business accounts, and in one of those training courses, and she was so utterly confused, and we went through it together, and actually they ended up using my spreadsheet as an example because it made more sense. It made sense to her. So it's really important that you have something that makes sense to you. Absolutely come and talk to me if you want to have something that makes sense to you, because it's different businesses have different needs. So it's that kind of thing. So the mindset is very much about, I keep on telling you to put your big girl pants on, don't I? So.
I keep thinking, do you know what's really funny is I keep thinking I've pulled on my big girl pants quite a few times, and I think I've pulled them up and up and up, and I always think they're up here because I've pulled them up so much, but they're still halfway around my knees because there just seems to be constant, and I think this is why we want
I say it's constant growth. Yeah. So, and I think that some of this is, we all have moments where our confidence or the imposter syndrome comes flying in, and then there's a bit of self-doubt, and it doesn't matter who we are. Everyone has its self-doubt. The people that we consider the best in business, they always have that self-doubt. Yeah. And actually every now and again, you just need to have somebody else say, no, you're okay. It's okay to do that. And it's building that confidence and saying it's okay to do that. And understanding your numbers is a really useful way of giving yourself a bit of confidence. And it's actually, it helps you make decisions better if you know if you have all of the information. And running your own business means that we have what I would call decision fatigue, because it's a constant. Yeah. So I would always say, get the information that you need that's pertinent to you to help you make the right decisions. And it's sort of so that you know that if this is what you want, you have the funds, the resources, and the information and the people to support you. So that's how we kind of it's a mindset and a goal setting process.
Yeah. I'd also say keep fluidity. If you told me at the beginning of the year I was going to move to an office, I'd have probably laughed. I had a completely different idea with what to do with those funds, but I had that backup funds, and it was like, what do I want to do with that? And I've had long thought. That.
Yeah, we've had
loads of conversations, and I would say that having that backup allowed me that fluidity to make the decision actually that the best thing for me to do was to take on this office. But the other thing I would say to anyone out there, and there are people launching or people who are thinking of launching, somebody I know I saw on LinkedIn has just launched, reach out and surround yourself with good people. Absolutely. Lean and reach out. I feel very lucky that you and I became friends, and we can support each other, and we do different things. We have this, we speak probably daily, and it's that thing where we've got each other. So surround yourself with good people, especially in the early days, and don't be afraid to say, I don't know. So as powerful thing I said was, I don't know.
Yeah, and actually we're all on a learning curve. We're at just different places on it. So, and we've all made some mistakes. We've talked about mistakes.
I've been lucky. Lucky or structured. I sort of interesting thought process there, because actually I haven't bought anything for the business that has been a complete waste. I launched on £2,000, and I'm really honest about that. It wasn't my money; it was lent to me, and that's how I launched. I launched on £2,000 and got a laptop and started and went, whoa! And I remember feeling incredibly overwhelmed until I walked in and actually kind of went to a women in business. Now I don't really do women in business networking. Anyone who knows me knows I like I like mixed people. I want to have diversity. But I met you at that event, and that one event where I met Sharon and I met you, and I started to reach out to people. And I think about the people I met on that table, and you're still very much part of my life now. So
Yeah.
that's right at the beginning.
Yeah, and well, we don't. You could call them mistakes or experience. And I'm going to say we all learn from experience. And there's some people that have lots of people that have different experiences, and yeah, have a conversation with them about that. So yeah,
Brilliant. Well, that was a very dry topic for us, which is very unusual. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed this one, send us your suggestion for next month and we will debate it. We have no idea where these conversations are going to go because we have these are totally unscripted. But I'm Kirsty Vanderbolk and I'm joined with
Jill Geik. Give us a shout when you know what else you'd like us to talk about. Catch you soon.
Awesome.